how did this whole thing get started? How did you become Clutch in the first place 18 years ago now?
I actually fell into this whole profession. I started being a mascot when I was in high school in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I went to Wissahickon High, about a half hour outside of Center City, Philly. And the cheerleaders my senior year asked me to be the mascot. They didn't really do tryouts. They just asked kind of a wacky, zany, class clown type, extrovert, energized senior each year to portray the character. So I said, absolutely, jumped on the opportunity and was the Wissahickon Trojan. I was in body armor and helmet, and my face actually showed, painted my face, and kind of goofed around and had fun doing it. When I got to college, I went to the University of Delaware. Similar story. Met some cheerleaders my senior year. There's a common thread of cheerleaders here. Met some cheerleaders, and by happenstance and serendipity would have it that the very next day was their mascot tryouts. They asked me to come try out. I tried out. I won the position. Got very lucky when I won the position in that they were rebranding the University of Delaware, creating a whole new character only about 2 months after I got the job. They flew me down to Atlanta to a costume company to get fitted for his new character that they were rebranding all the university logos, letterhead, emblems on buildings, everything were going to be centered around this new character called UD, playing off of the U and D of University of Delaware. And it kind of blew up for me from there. I got put on a partial scholarship. I was doing about 250 appearances a year as UD, all the football games, basketball games, women's basketball, all the other sports, and a lot of appearances. Started teaching mascot camps in the summer, won my first mascot camp that I attended with other college mascots, and then was teaching the mascot camps, and heard about the opportunity to audition with the Rockets through UCA, Universal Cheerleaders Association. Flew down here from my last camp that I taught in the summer of '95, auditioned for the job, went back to Delaware as a senior. I got a call from the Rockets a couple weeks later and says, "You got the job. We need you down here ASAP." And I said, "What does ASAP mean?" They said, "Next week." So packed up my stuff, postponed my senior year at Delaware, moved down to Houston to create the then unnamed Rockets Bear. The Rockets didn't have a costume yet. They just know that they wanted to add a degree of funny and lovable and huggable for the kids, but funny for the adults to the mix. They had Turbo at the time, which was probably the NBA's most successful mascot, an amazing acro dunker, did all of the superhero daredevil type stuff, mini tramp slam dunking. That was very dynamic character, but they wanted to add some funny and huggable to the show. So I came down and picked up the torch at that point and created the character Clutch. Had a naming contest the first year, but I worked with the costume company in designing a teddy bear in Rockets colors, which was our owner's idea. Leslie Alexander thought, well, we can't really have a rocket because that's not very approachable by children. You don't really come up and hug a big missile. So he thought, what's the most universally loved children's toy? A teddy bear. Let's try a teddy bear in Rockets colors. That's why Clutch is gray. It was the closest we could get to silver at the time in a fur. And we created the character. And that was 18 years ago. Turbo and I worked in tandem together. I think we complemented each other's skills very well for 8 years at Toyota Center. He retired when we moved to Toyota Center. He's a little bit older than me, and the kind of pounding on the knees and the joints takes its toll. And I've been at Toyota Center as the sole mascot for the last 10 years.
Wow, that's an incredible story. A couple weeks ago, you went with the Rockets to Manila and Taipei. You've been on a lot of these foreign trips. The Rockets players greeted like rock stars over there from the pictures and video we saw. What was the trip like? That had to be one of your more unique experiences doing this.
Yeah, rock stars is a good term. Jeremy Lin over there, it gave me a little bit of flashes of what Beatlemania must have been like in the States when they arrived here. I mean, everywhere we landed, especially in Taipei, when we get off the plane in the middle of the night, we're talking about 4 a.m., there's literally hundreds, if not over 1,000 people at the airport outside of baggage claim or accustomed to greet us. They're just cheering fans dressed in Rockets gear with signs, all just to catch a glimpse of Jeremy. It was really amazing and astounding. Everywhere we went, the arena, different appearances we did, fans came out in droves and were really just so energized and energetic. I've been to Asia now 10 times. We've performed in 10 different countries, but specifically in Asia 10 different times, multiple times in China. And this was one of the most fun trips. The other one that was of note was when we went over with Yao years back and played 2 games there, and it was a similar experience, just tons and tons of people going nuts for the Rockets.
Does it ever get claustrophobic when you're in with these guys and you got all these people around you? You're in the costume. Does that feel claustrophobic at all?
I've been locked up in a costume now for going on 22, 23 years. So claustrophobia is not really a problem for me. I'm used to being in a confined space, sweating and vision. So if it gets tight because of a lot of fans, I'm usually all right with that. But there are quite a few fans that, kind of cluster and gather around. They all just kind of want a high five, just to touch your arm, give you a hug, get a picture. And it's even more so over in Asia than here, just because the exposure over there is less. We're there less times. Obviously, we're here more. So over there, yeah, they go nuts for it, and it's great. I love it. No problems at all.
I know everything and anything has happened over the years as far as in the costume during the games and crazy stuff has happened. What's your 1 or 2 favorite stories from all that time?
My favorite stories would probably be my greatest mishaps. One of my favorite quotes is from Carol Burnett, and she says that comedy is tragedy plus time. And some of my favorite stories in my career are those that I went home literally wanting to burst into tears over, or, just so upset and besides myself at the time. But, you add a few years or whatnot, and it's funny. Some of the funniest stuff that I like to reminisce and look back upon. There's the time that I was accidentally bumped years back on the court while shooting the T-shirt gun out and fell forward to my knees, and the T-shirt gun went off accidentally. And because I was knocked to my knees, it lowered the barrel, and I was only 20 feet from the huddle. And the T-shirt went right in, rocketing, so to speak, there's a pun, rocketing into our huddle, hit Catino Mobley square in the chest, dropping him to his knees while Rudy was trying to address the team, and he left the game, not to return until the second half, with a deep contusion to the left pectoral muscle. I was not very popular with Catino for at least 2 years. There was the time that I was accidentally cued to go on the court for the T-shirt toss with my huge air raid siren that we would crank. I had on a wheel, on a base with wheels, and I would push it out to mid-court and then ride it like a skateboard as I came up and started cranking it. And I was accidentally cued too early. And because I'm looking down at the ground and trying not to run into anybody, I didn't realize the game, in fact, had not stopped. The ball was being inbounded by the Spurs as I kind of coasted to mid-court cranking this, and I looked to my right, and there's Tony Parker advancing the ball down the court 10 feet to my right. Not one of my shining moments. The play was whistled dead. We thankfully had the understanding of the referees and didn't suffer any kind of penalty or foul or anything like that. So we've had some funny bloopers over the year. We kind of compiled them all into a top 10 clutch bloopers, and we air them at games now and then. But those, I guess, 2 of the funniest stories.
You performed routines with a bunch of celebrities, including Jack Nicholson, Kevin Costner, George Bush Sr., Tiger Woods, Adam Sandler. Wow, what a list. Bill Murray, Chris Tucker, Andy Roddick, Beyonce, Jay-Z. Can you share a story about working with them in one of these routines or just meeting one of them?
Probably my favorite 3. I'll give you my favorite 3 over the years was Jack Nicholson, George Bush Sr., and Bill Murray. Bill Murray was great. In general, we usually don't rehearse or run any of these concepts by celebrities before we do them. We did with George Bush Sr., obviously. We had to get clearance with the Secret Service. But Bill Murray was great. We did a Ghostbusters skit, and he totally got into it, where I was chasing around somebody dressed as a ghost with a opposing team jersey underneath the ghost costume, and I'm chasing him around the court with a foam bat, and I finally catch him, and then I drag him over to Bill, and Bill got up and took that bat and just started wailing on the opposing team fan ghost. We did another one with George Bush Sr. This is pre 9/11, so things weren't quite as sensitive as they are now, understandably so. But Secret Service was great, and they're like, yeah, no problem. Basically, I played a Secret Service agent, and I tackled a would-be opposing team fan that was spraying everybody with silly string, and I tackled him before he got to the president, handcuffed him. George Bush stood up out of his chair and high-fived me. He was great. Jack Nicholson gave me a surprise of my own. I came out and was doing a Sunglasses at Night bit, to the old song by Corey Hart, and I see Jack Nicholson, and I react like, holy mackerel, it's Jack Nicholson, huge celebrity. I bow down to him, then I get up and I kind of shake Clutch's big rump in his face, and I sit down on his lap. I do that, with a lot of fans, invade their space, in a nice way, funny way, sit on their lap. And I act like I'm bouncing up and down like a little kid would on his grandpa's knee. Well, unbeknownst to me, the whole crowd laughs and explodes with laughter. And unbeknownst to me, it was because Jack wraps his arm around me, looks next to him at our owner, kind of grins, and then starts thrusting into me. And of course, I don't know, because I have this big, huge belly on, and there's a cushion zone, and I'm not really sitting on his lap. I'm just bent at the knees, making it look like I'm sitting on his lap. And the whole crowd's laughing at this and at me, and I'm oblivious to it. I was kind of thinking at the time, man, this is funny, but it's not that funny. And it's not till after I get in the back that my assistant told me what had happened, and I got to see it on video later, and it turned out the joke was on me. And, because I jumped up and then I got down and I kissed his feet like he's a big shot celebrity. So it looked like I was thanking him.
Well, for the NBA players, I know they get excited about meeting their heroes. I'm sure you guys have your own heroes. For many years, the mascots who set the standards were the San Diego Chicken, the Philly Fanatic. Who were your big inspirations when you got started doing this? Are there mascots that you looked up to in the business? And if so, have you had a chance to meet any of those guys?
Yeah, it started out with the original Philly Fanatic. His name's Dave Raymond. He was subsequently our football coach, our longtime football coach at Delaware, Tubby Raymond, who was our football coach for 30-some-odd years. They named the field after him. But his son was actually the original Philly Fanatic. Started the character back in 1978, did it for 16 years, 16 seasons, and retired in 93. And I had the good fortune when I started at Delaware of having Dave Raymond, who was kind of the godfather of the business, so to speak, of the mascot business, on the sidelines at football games while I was performing as Judy. And he was gracious enough to sit down with me a couple times and give me some pointers and, provide some inspiration. Also, it was somebody I looked up to and had set the bar pretty high, and I aspired to. When I got to Houston, that figure was easily Turbo. Jerry Burrell portrayed the character for 12 years, and I got to work in tandem with him for 8 years. And I got to just see his passion for performing. He was obviously a very talented gymnast, but watching his passion and also his passion for inspiring children and through the school shows and delivering a message to inspire youth towards future-oriented decisions really kind of helped mold and craft my career. So the two guys in the business that I really looked up to were Jerry Burrell and Dave Raymond, that provided me a lot of inspiration along the way. I should say that, I've had the same assistant with me full-time now for 13 years, Dominic Davila. He goes to all of my school shows. He provides the voice for Clutch's message. He's kind of the MC for all the school shows. He plays the Rockets Ranger at Rockets games. He plays Rockets Man. And he's an amazing inspiration to me as well. He's so good, such a positive energy force. He's great relating to children, adults. He's always so positive. He's a great ambassador for the Rockets. And just to be around this guy, he's just got an infectious smile and energy that just makes you happy to be around him, and often picks me up and inspires me and gives me the ability to kind of inspire others and entertain others.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.